Hi everyone, and thanks for being with me. I'm going to talk today about snakes, spiders, and other oddities that we find here in Australia. And the reason why I'm going to talk about this specifically is because 2 or 3 weeks ago now, I was with my wife in the United Kingdom. And one of the questions that we were incessantly asked, continually asked often, was how dangerous is it living in Australia where there are dangerous and ferocious things such as snakes, spiders, and maybe even boxing kangaroos? Not too sure about the last one. But certainly people were asking us those questions continually. And so I wanted to have at least let those people know who may be living overseas that we do have snakes, we do have spiders, and our shores, of which there are many because we are a large island, we have sharks. And we often have, particularly around sharks, we often have attacks. There was only an attack just a day or so ago where an elderly woman was bitten by a shark and was in a critical condition in hospital as a result. There are often shark attacks, not as many as one would expect given the population that sits around the coastal areas of Australia, but certainly there are shark attacks, and if you're swimming in areas where you shouldn't be swimming, perhaps that's to be expected. But certainly with regard to snakes and spiders, well, we have some pretty venomous snakes. In fact, the brown snake here in Australia is known as one of the most venomous on this planet. And though we very rarely would, living in the city, and we are a coastal country, but living in our city, you'd probably rarely find a brown snake. Now, we must remember that if you're going to interfere with a snake's lifestyle, like tread on them, then you're likely to be bitten. Now, when we were having this discussion with people in the UK, we were saying to them, well, you very rarely see a brown snake anyway, and there has hardly ever, since 1985 anyway, since they've had an anti-venom, there have been hardly ever any deaths as a result of brown snakes biting. But to make it worse, I guess, was that just last week, a brown snake had wrapped itself around a guy's leg, and a friend who was with that person tried to remove the snake. In doing so, both of them were bit and one of them died. So to say that, on one hand, I want to assure you that it's okay to come to Australia because we don't have all that many instances where people die from being bitten by a snake. I have this instance where someone was. So the one instance doesn't necessarily mean that this is a dangerous place to be. So I want to affirm the fact that here in Australia there are brown snakes, but are they likely to bite you? It's very rare, a very rare incident. However, just to make it all worse, I want to tell you a little bit of a story about a brown snake that I encountered. And that was a few years back. My wife called out to me from our reading room and said, there's a snake in the reading room. And I went in there, and sure enough, there was a snake, and it was about that long. It wasn't a very big one, but it was a brown snake, and they are venomous. So I did what any good Australian would do. I picked it up by the tail, I whipped it around my head, and I snapped it, and its head came off. Now, that's what Crocodile Dundee would have done. I didn't do that. I just got a shovel, cut its head off, and then shoveled it out and threw it out into the garden. So the reality is they are present. And they were particularly present at that time because we were going through a drought, and about 200, 300 metres from us, up a hill, sits a forested area. And when the snakes are scavenging for food and they can't find anything, they'll come down to the greener pastures, which is normally the gardens and backyards of the people below that area. So certainly a snake did come down. But the reality is that if you don't interfere with them, they won't interfere with you. One did find its way into our house. Don't know how it was able to do that. I suspect it might have been carried in by the cat, and then I'm surprised the cat wasn't bitten. But nevertheless, it did find its way in there, and I was able to dispense with it accordingly. But in all the times that I've been living in this house, which is for 1.5 decades now, that's the only time I've ever come across a brown snake either in our garden or elsewhere. So they're very, very rare. Now, as for spiders, there certainly are a lot of spiders around. In Australia, we have daddy longlegs, which is, most people would know what that is, and we have a huntsman, which is can be a very large spider, very ugly, very intimidating, but I can assure you is not venomous. Yet, I'll tell you what, to look at the damn thing, it's enough to scare you just by looking at it. But they are not venomous. But then there is the redback spider, and there is the trapdoor spider. So I haven't seen a trapdoor spider for a long, long time, normally found out in the bush, and I certainly haven't seen a redback, even though I was with a client some months back before I retired who was telling me that they had an infestation of redback spiders, and they are venomous and they are dangerous, and if you've got kids around in particular, and you need to make sure that they're exterminated. But haven't heard of a death by a redback spider for a long, long time. So it very rarely happens. I'm not saying they're not here, they are here, but it's unlikely that you will be impacted by them. And the reason why I'm saying this is that we met some fabulous people while we were overseas, and we'd love to encourage them to come here. But these reservations that they have are based on not enough information, I think. And I want to put that information out there and say, if you're a foreigner and you want to come to Australia, it's a great place to travel in. It's a great place to live. There's no disputing any of that. And we would certainly welcome you here. I'd hate to think that you chose not to come here simply because we had a spider or one of these little devils sitting in the backyard waiting for you. It's very unlikely that a brown snake will attack you unless you attack it or tread on it. But there aren't all that many of them around for that to really be a problem if you're in the city. Now, if you're certainly in the country, there are certainly lots of other nasties such as scorpions and other insects that probably are likely to attack you as well. So be wary if you're in the country, but if you're in the cities, things should be fine. And we're just looking forward for the opportunity to meet with you if you come to this great country of ours. Thanks everybody for watching. Don't know whether that was helpful or not, but I would like to say that if you do follow my YouTube channel, that you do subscribe, ring the bell, and any comments you'd like to make about anything that I've said, please make them down below. Thanks everybody for being here. Take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly, be safe.